Hi, everybody. Romy Hill here, and today I'm going to be going over my latest 2023 Lace Lovers Club pattern. It's called Mountain Frost. And oh, wow, I didn't notice that the mannequin behind was like front and center there. But anyway, welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see you here. And I'm going to go over like the whole pattern from beginning to end, and then I'm going to concentrate on pieces of it. So I'll be showing you how to do specific pieces of the pattern, like the first parts of it after I do the whole overview. And hi, Marianne. Um, so mm, you asked one question quickly, Marianne asked in the chat, and it is how to purchase the 2024 Lace Lovers Club patterns only. That will be up in January of 2024. So if you are subscribed to my newsletter, then you will see when that's up for sale. So right now, there are two shipping like shipment packages left for 2024. So those will go away on the January 15th, and then also if they're not gone before then, and then also the pattern only option will come up. So hopefully answered your question. At any rate, so Mountain Frost. So this is done with Sweet Georgia, and it's one of my very favorite yarns. This is sea silk, and you can see here it's two colors. Um, I coordinated today. So this is two colors of sea silk, and sea silk is a blend of silk and sea cell, which is like extruded kelp, I believe, and it's a type of rayon. So any of those any of those fibers that are extruded, like bamboo or like corn or milk or any of those things, those are a type of rayon because they're actually it's like a gel that's then extruded into a long fiber. And because of that, it makes the silk come out as less fuzzy. So sometimes silk has the tendency to be a little bit fuzzy with the shorter strands of silk. And the sea cell really kind of bolsters that and makes it extra strong and beautiful and shiny. And I love it. So there aren't that many people who make it, and luckily, Sweet Georgia is still making it. So that was my yarn for Mountain Frost. Okay, so today I'm just going to go over the whole thing. It starts with a really cool cast on. It's a geeky cast on. So for those of you who have fun with the Turkish cast on, you're going to have fun with this because the cast on is designed to have like the correct number of garter ridges in here. So this is a garter stitch edging, and the shawl starts right up at the top right here. And I also had I did a little tutorial on just the cast on in case anybody wanted to get started. And I know a bunch of you have. So that's really cool. Hi, Julie. It's nice to see you. Um, okay, so also lots of beads. Alrighty, so I'm just going to set this aside for a moment and let's take a quick look at the pattern itself. Um, just going to transition over here. So I printed out a copy. Here's some pictures on the front. Okay, so it comes in two sizes, medium and tall. The tall uses twice the amount of yarn, so it uses two skeins of each of the two colors. But the pattern is written in such a way that you can actually add and subtract um, some repeats if you feel like you want to. So I did talk to one person who wanted to subtract a few of the repeats up front and then keep the rest of it for the tall. And because of the way I did the pattern, you can do that. So it's resizable. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get there. So here is my blocking picture. I have been trying to kind of include these more often so you can see how it would block out. So I used curved blocking wires and I pinned them out. So hi Judy, hi Di, hi Barb, hi Terry. It's so nice to see you all. Um, so I didn't say up front before that this is delayed. So I'll see you guys a bit after you post in here, but I will answer your questions if you have questions. Okay, so within the pattern, both sizes are the same up to um, and including chart B. So on the first 4 repeats of chart C, then you will have, that's actually supposed to be 6 times. I didn't even notice that. So I did actually correct this, but this is another correction that I need to make. That's actually a 6. I'm sorry about that. Um, everything everything works out as 6, so hopefully um, that's not too bad. Anyway, I did actually I did actually send out a correction, so this will be in my next correction. That should be a 6. Okay, I think that that's the only place that it was a 5, and somehow that snuck in there. So, okay. So through the first 4 repeats of chart C, it's worked exactly the same, both for the tall and for the medium. And then at chart C, you'll see the tall has 2 extra repeats. So let me show you what chart C is. So chart C is this area right here. So chart A, chart A starts the shawl right up at the top here. Just this little tiny bit here is chart A. And then chart B is a little bit different just as a setup. And then each chart C is this area right here. So for the medium, there are 4 of those. And for the tall, there are 6. So if you don't want to work the extra 2 of these, or if you just want to work 1 extra for the tall, you will still be able to do this and have everything work out. So it will just be a different number of repeats for the chart afterwards. But the numbers work out. So this first part here has a 3-stitch repeat down here. And so this also has a 3-stitch repeat. That's chart D. And down here, this goes to a 9-stitch repeat, which is increased by 1 with a yarn over. So you're totally good because once you're past chart B, all of the charts go together. You can take one out, one of those chart C's out, and everything will be fine. Okay, so then we go on to chart D, and chart D is this area here. So this makes a little kind of, it's a mock cable, and it uses Estonian stitches to create this mock cable, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now we get on to where the 2 of them start to differ a little bit because I added some extra on to the next chart. So for chart E, it's going to be a smaller little bit. So this one is the medium, and this is going to be chart E right here for the medium. So for the tall, chart E1 starts out like this, but it's just longer. So this little motif here is repeated, and it's repeated for about the size of another chart, about this much more. Very scientific. It's about this much more. So these are the two, that's where it differs. So the medium will use chart E only. The tall do not do chart E. And for tall, you're going to completely skip chart E and go to chart E1. So at this point, you can cut your C1. And that is because on the end of these charts, you're going to end your C1 on the left side. So after you have done a right side row, and then you're going to go to C2 on the wrong side row. So you're going to need to cut the C1 because the next time you use it, you're going to be on the right. And then we're going to go to chart F. So we're back together with chart F. Both the medium and the tall are going to be using chart F. But at this point, the tall has grown to 100 more stitches than the medium. So if you decided to cut out any of the chart C, extra chart C's up here, then this count is going to be different, and you will go on, you will have a different number of repeats later on. Okay, so for the tall only, you are going to work chart G. And so medium does not work this chart at all. And then for chart H, which is the last chart, again, you're going to go back to both medium and tall are going to be working this. So you can see here, at the time of bind off, the tall is pretty big. So if again, you want to cut that down, you can mix and match the charts pretty much. So, and if anyone has a specific question about that, I am more than happy to answer. Okay, so let's take a look at my pattern and the format. So right up at the top here, it shows you how to look at the parentheses in the written instructions. And then I started doing this in my patterns because I know that there are people, lots of people actually, who have learned from videos and or have different knitting styles or whatever. So all of the abbreviations, all of the instructions in here assume that your stitches are mounted with the right leg in front and the left leg in back of the needle. So that's a Western mount. So if you're a combination knitter, you'll have to sort of edit in your head, or if you have regularly knit with your stitches with the right leg in the back, you'll have to edit a little bit in your head. Okay, so here's my key to the chart symbols. So this chart, this pattern uses several different types of charts, and these are for the charts that are basically what you see is what you knit. So in other words, the symbols are the same on the front and on the back. So you're not, in your head, you're not turning them over when you work the chart. And these are also for the right side only charts. So we have C1 over here. This is the color for C1. And here, these are the colors for C2. And the shading in here is to help with counting. So in the written instructions, I talk about markers. I put them between the body of the shawl and the edging. And it's really handy to be able to just see a marker. So I do suggest putting the marker in also if you use both the written instructions and the charts. It's really helpful to have like some sort of reference point. Okay, so these two right here, so place bead on the wrong side. Um, for some of these charts, I am not showing the wrong side so that both um, saves space and makes the charts easier to read. So when you see these little shaded magenta boxes here, you are going to place a bead on the wrong side you work um, before you work the stitch, or if you want to instead, you can place this on the right side, but it will be after you work the stitch. Okay. And there are other notes in here as well about the shading and all of that fun stuff. Okay. So moving on, so you can see here where the markers are up here. And I'm going to take you through casting on and working the first chart again in case you all have any questions or you want to know extra. I know some people were talking about how long you might have to use magic loop in here to make sure that you have um, enough leeway to work the stitches. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay, so here is chart B. So chart A is worked one time. By the time you're at the end here, you will be ready to work chart B. So you'll have 35 stitches, and here is how you are going to start your chart B. So chart B is right at the start right here. So you can see those that are worked, the stitches that are worked right through the back loop. That is this area right here. And this little part right here is chart A. So if you have watched my little tutorial, you'll have seen what chart A looks like at the end. Okay. Because this is a crescent shawl, I have put in some little extra increases in here, and I just wanted to call your attention because this middle one right here is 3 to 3 stitches, and then on the sides here, these are all 2 stitches to 3 stitches. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, and then we go back to 3 to 3. So this is to help sort of give a little bit more stitch count across this area here to help the shawl grow into a crescent shape without making it lumpy. So that is so just make sure that you take a look at the legs up close. You see the 2 and the 3 above. And you can also see that reflected in your written instructions. So on to chart C, we're going to start out with working this center repeat 19 times for both the medium and the tall. And as it grows fairly quickly, because it's just a little tiny 3-stitch repeat. So each one of these charts is going to be one repeat of the edging as well. And this only shows the right side row up at the top here. And for the wrong side row, you're going to knit 1 stitch through the back loop 2 times and then knit to your marker. So here's your marker, slip marker, and then purl 1, yarn over, purl 1 into the yarn over. And I will show you what that looks like along here. So this is where we're getting all the increase for the crescent shape. So again, 4 times for the medium and 6 times for the tall. So you're going to have both of these are going to do up through the 73 repeats of this middle motif here. And then the tall is going to go on to do 91 repeats and then 109 repeats across there. Okay, and then on to chart D. So chart D, this looks like that's that little mock cable section. So before now, we have had just this little area right here of the mock cable. And then at chart D, we're going to get this little mock cable area where it starts looking lacier through here because these are pulling together at each of the intersections right there. So it's starting to look lacier than it did before. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna show the medium here. We still have the little markers here. So this is all right side, all of this area up here. This is where we go from a 3-stitch repeat to, and this is a 10-stitch repeat, but this stitch right here is created. So I'm taking 3 3s to go into this little repeat here and then adding a yarn over to make that 10. So even though it is a 10-stitch repeat, there is an increase in that repeat there that makes it 10 stitches. So that is why if you want to mess with the charts, you can go ahead and mess with the charts because this is going to carry over perfectly. So don't worry about that. Okay, so for now, same wrong side rows except for row 8. And row 8 is shown up top here. So this is the only wrong side row on this chart. And you're going to work these symbols as they appear. So you're going to purl these. And that is correct. You are going to purl these all the way across, even though up to now you have been knitting these. So this is the end of the edging right here. That's the last part of the edging that you're going to see. And we're going to move on. So let me show you what that looks like on the side here. Okay, so on the side, I end this little edging here. And this is the end. And that last row that you're seeing, the row 8, and on the tall, it's I don't remember what number it is. I'll show you in a sec. That last wrong side row is going to be in C2 because it's setting up for the next row. And the next row is going to use the loops from that first C2 row on chart E or chart E1. So these are all knit straight across here. So before that, these were all garter stitch. I'm sorry, the C2 is all purled across here. Before that, the C1 was always knit across this edging here to make it garter stitch. But now we're transitioning over and it's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to go from this edging up on the top here with that scallop shaping along here. And that is going to end in this band right across here. And your entire edge here has a different type of increase scheme. And you can see here it's just a flat, just has a little bit of swoop over at the edge, but no edging, just a little 2-stitch garter edging here. Okay, So on the tall, same thing. So this, instead of being row 8, it's row 24 up here. That is the first C2 row. And again, the stitches are worked as shown. So this is purled across, and all of these are purled, and you can see the bead placement here. So when you place these beads, you're going to place it and then purl the stitch. So in order to keep the chart from getting ridiculously giant, I have sort of split it up here. So right above this area, right at the bottom here, this little area here is going to be worked 40 times right in this repeat. So up above here, it goes to 42 times, and up above to 46 times. And that's just to keep everything from getting just massive and giant. And again, you're going to have over here the wrong side instructions as well as the row 24 instructions. And the written instructions for chart E are over 2 pages. So that it starts on this page under the chart and then is continued up at the top right up here, and it finishes off. And then we are getting down to chart F. So both of your sizes are working chart F. So this first row across here, this is a lateral braid, and I have modified it to make it a little bit easier to do in lace. So instead of using the regular twist stitch, I am using a yarn over and then a knit 2 together through the back loop, and I will show you that. So that is across the first row here, and those are using the loops that you just created right before on your last row before. Okay. So I do have this next row is all worked through the back loop because you're closing up the yarn overs. So let me show you what that looks like here. So that just closes up all the yarn overs across here. Let me show you that closer. So here is your lateral braid, and then that is that first right side row closing up all the yarn overs right here. That you can kind of see it. When you back away from it, it just looks like it's offset a little bit as a design element. And you can also see the bead placement here. So the bead placement is right at the tip of this little motif here. Okay, so Janet, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm glad you like it. Yay. Okay, so once that is done, like that, right across here, this area right here is going to be reverse stockinette stitch, and then we have a slip stitch motif. So this slip stitch motif is setting the stage here for the color one little, they look to me kind of like little snowflakes or frost flakes. So it's the same stitch that was used in the top of the shawl, but in this particular case, though, it is offset against the background of the color 2. And there's an extra stitch slipped above it here and beaded. So that bead hangs down a little bit below that motif. Let me show you what that looks like. So here is the motif. It is just the same one that we were using up in the top part. And the center stitch is beaded here. So that's slipped a little bit so that when you hold it right side up, I'm holding it upside down like you would knit it right now, but these kind of fall to the bottom of the stitch. And that's going to line up. Every other one is going to line up with the bead in the last C1 chart here. So if you're off, you'll be able to tell that it's supposed to line up. Okay, there is one row of garter stitch right in here with the C2 color. So there's one little garter ridge that goes across here. And this pattern, this chart is the what you see is what you knit. And in the back here, you can see the what you see is what you get type of chart. And that's going to show you what the texture is for this chart. So you can see here, there's the pearl ridge right here. And that shows you that little ridge that I was just showing you. Okay, so this is worthy of note up here. So I have switched over to a different type of patterning. This does line up, but I took advantage of the fact that you usually have to move markers when you do a double decrease next to a repeat line. Up here, you do not. So all three of the stitches that end up in this double decrease are already in the repeat right here. So I wanted the center to fall right above the bead. So you are not going to be moving any markers in this row if you have in fact placed markers. So I put a little offset right here to show you that it does actually line up. So this SK2P does line up right above this, and that bead will line up right above the bead right below here. So what you're going to do is you're just going to yarn over here. You're not going to move any stitches around if you have used markers. You're just going to use these 3 stitches to do an SK2P. So it lines up a little bit differently there. Okay. And we are on to this tall chart. This one is chart G, and it's only the tall size. So you can see here, there's some of these little highlighted SK2Ps, and here's a highlighted knit one through the back loop. So you're going to be placing beads. So this looks a little weird over here, I know, because I have that decrease and then I make one, but the decrease makes this look right over on the edge here. So otherwise, there's just a stitch just sort of hanging out in the middle of there, making the pattern look weird. So that's why I have the decrease and the make one. And again, over here, this is a right side only, and the wrong side is shown under here. This one's much simpler. It's just a knit one through the back loop 2 times and then purl to 2 stitches before the end and knit one through the back loop 2 times. And all of these. Right side, 54 repeats at the bottom here. Up at the top here, 56 repeats. Okay, so both of the sizes are going to get you ready for this last chart here. This is chart H. So if you were working the medium size, you wouldn't have worked chart G. But if you work chart G, you can still work chart H. So either one. So we're going to come down here to working this 44 or 58 times for the tall. And again, you can see we have the highlighted SK2Ps, and that indicates where beads are placed. You can see up here the beads. Okay, up at the top, a little bit different. This shows all 3 rows up here. So here's 28 because 28 is knit instead of purled. 29, and then 30 is going to be your bind off row. So you can see that little star there, and you're going to be placing beads as you bind off. So there's a bead right over here and a bead right over here. You'll be placing them all the way across. So, and all you're going to do is use the stretchy bind off method that is shown in the abbreviations. And last page, this is, there were a couple of charts that were shown with both right and wrong sides. So chart A and chart F were shown with both right and wrong sides. These are the what you see is what you get version, where you're looking at the correct texture. When you look at the front of your work, this is the texture you'll see. So when you use this chart, you're going to be changing the meaning of each symbol from back to front. And there's another complete chart key down here at the bottom. So same thing, whichever chart format you use, they will all come out the same. So, all right, so let's kind of get into the setup here in case anybody has any extra questions about it. I did have that little YouTube, and I definitely think it's worth watching, and I know some of you did watch it already and started your shawl. But let's just show you how to do this in case anybody wants a little extra. If you want to ask some extra questions or anything like that, now's the time to do it. So I'm going to start this out with a Turkish cast on and magic loop. So you can do a Turkish cast on without magic loop, but I wanted to start this with the magic loop method. I am going to use a little bit of a thicker yarn in hopes that you can see it better. Okay, so I'm going to start by just making a slip knot, and the slip knot is a sacrificial slip knot. It's not going to stay as part of my work. It's just there to help me hold the yarn on my needles. So I have a fairly long cord. I think this is like a 32-inch cord. And I need that long cord so that I can use the magic loop. So I'm going to place my slip knot up top here with both of my strands hanging down in the back. I'm not going to do anything with that tail. That tail is just going to hang there. So this is my working yarn, and I am going to wrap my needles. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So my yarn is ending up in the back there. So let's just make sure 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. So this is technically casting on 24 stitches, and it's going to be the middle of the edging. So this is so that you don't have to graft it together later on or use a 3-needle bind off. So now that I have my 12 stitches, I'm going to rotate my needles to the right and pull this bottom one out here. And now I can knit my 12 stitches across the top. So I am doing this continental, but you can actually also do it English. So that's what it looks like when you do it English. Okay, back to continental. So sometimes this sort of flops around. Just put it back. It's fine. This will look a little bit floppy at first, but it will be fine later. Okay. And you're going to have one last little loop here at the end. And that is what it's going to look like when you're at the end. And you can see you still have the slip knot here, but you've knitted 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stitches off of that top needle, and you now have a purl ridge on the other side. Okay, so you are right here at the end of the setup. That's taken me to the end of the setup where I just knit the 12 stitches from the top needle. So now I'm going to go to chart A. So I just want to show you this remove slip knot after row 3. You're going to see what I mean by that. And let's just grab the chart over here. So now I'm going to start with row 1 right here. And this is a what you see is what you knit. So here's where I was before. I want to keep my magic loop. So I'm going to turn the other way like this. And you can see here's my slip knot. I'm sorry. Blade, just forget what I just said. I'm actually going to turn it over. I was having a moment there. So forget everything I just said. Here's where we are. Here's the slip knot. I'm going to turn it over this way and work chart A. So the slip knot is down here, and I think it actually functions as a great reminder not to go around like I was about to do. Like when I saw that slip knot, I was like, oh crap, I'm not supposed to be there yet. So I knew that I'm not going to be using the slip knot. Okay, so I'm over here at the beginning of chart 1, and here are the stitches. They're still on the cable from before. The slip knot is still here, and I'm going to start row 1 of the chart. So I have 2 SSKs, 2 yarn overs, 2 SSKs, and then I have a knit 2, yarn over, and an SSK, and I have 2 knits. And now you can see at the end here I have that little tiny flattened loopy thing. That is an indication that you just turn. So I'm going to turn my work and knit back to the end again. Oops. So I am right here, and I'm going to knit to the 2 stitches before the end and then knit one through the back loop twice. Okay. So this is creating that sort of larger area in the center that you saw above that center yarn over that I was showing you. Okay, and now I am ready to go all the way around. So I am going to turn my work one more time to the other side. And these stitches that are held down here on my cable have still not been worked. They're just still sitting there waiting for me. And I'm still magic looping it. Okay. So now I'm going to start on row 3, and 3 is going to go all the way across here. So I'm going to just do my knit 2 through the back loop and yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, and then knit 3. Okay, so you can see here, this is going to be the first time that we turn. So you can either put the yarn over on this needle or the next, doesn't really matter. I'm going to pull this in and turn this around. So I'm on exactly the same, I'm on the same side. So when I said yarn over on one needle or the next, what I meant was you can have it grouped with these stitches here or the top stitches here. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to group it with the top stitches. So here's my yarn over. And this first stitch right here is a little bit fiddly because you can see here it's twisted. So you're going to still knit it through the front. You don't want to untwist that stitch. It's still going to be knit through the front. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is going to look a little bit weird at first when you start it because you're going to be doing an SSK and part of that SSK is right above the yarn over there, but it will actually work out. So there's a yarn over and then an SSK and then a knit 2, yarn over, SSK, yarn over, and then you'll see you have 2 stitches plus the little knot, and you're just going to do knit 1 through the back loop, knit 1 through the back loop, and the knot can come off now. Pop, all gone. Okay, so this is what you have at the moment. This is what it's going to look like after row 3. So I'm going to go to the other side, push my needle through, and then pull this through so I can knit. And I'm going to knit that top part right across here. So this is my edging. And I'm going to get over here. And then I want to work 9 stitches into this yarn over. So I am going to purl 1, yarn over, that's purl 1, yarn over. So here's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. And that is what it's going to look like at first. So they're kind of clumped up there. Now I'm going to turn and push my needle back in up at the top here and pull this bottom one out. And just continue. I like to give that a little bit of a tug because it's going around the corner and I don't want to have it too stretched out there. I'm going to go all the way to the end and knit those 2 last stitches through the back loop. Okay, so that is what the beginning looks like. And I'm just going to go on and show you the start of chart B so you can see what it looks like to be working magic loop on this. So with chart B, I start out with the edging here at the bottom. And at this point, you can just work magic loop until it's comfortable not to work it anymore, basically. Okay, so this is the end of the edging right there. So I am going to place a marker here and pull this back in. Okay. So all of the increases are going to come from these yarn overs right here. So here's my yarn over that's going to have all the increases, and here are the 9 stitches that need to be worked through the back loop. So those are all being worked through the back loop. And let's get to the side. And then there's another yarn over on this side, and I'm going to place another marker. So I think that just telling you to place a marker is actually easier than telling you each stitch count, because then you're going to be counting like how many knit stitches between the end and the yarn over, and I think it's just easier to do it this way. Okay, so oops. Alrighty. So now we're going to start on the other side of the edging. And this is a mirror image, the edging is. It is not offset by one like sometimes if there are any bound off stitches in edging, they need to be offset. This one is not, it's completely mirrored. So that is what it looks like so far. And I think I can probably start working without the magic loop now, even though it's going to be a little bit tight, but I think I can. Maybe not. We'll see. So I can probably stretch this across. Yeah. So I can stretch it across now. So if you want to start working without a magic loop, now is probably a good enough time to do it. I want you to be able to see what I'm going to do with the yarn over, so I think I'm not going to do it quite yet. So I'm just going to pull my cable out through here again so I can show you better what this is going to look like. Okay. So this is row 2, and I'm just going along here, knitting the edging. And let's see, when I get to my little marker here, slipping the marker. Okay, so here is where all of the increases are going to come from along the edges. Each of the yarn overs, every time you're on a wrong side, you're going to purl 1, yarn over, and then purl 1 into each of those yarn overs, and that's going to give you 3 stitches for each yarn over. And I'm just going to knit across here. And turn. So I know some of you actually I know some of you hate Magic Loop, and I am not a huge Magic Loop fan myself, but in this particular case, um, I think it works really well. So I'm a fan of it in this situation. Okay, so let's just go on the other side here. Okay, so here's another yarn over. I'm going to purl one, yarn over, and purl one into it. Don't worry if your marker kind of moves around, just make sure to keep it right before your edging here. And Barb, thank you for that really kind comment. I am so glad. Okay. All right. So here we are. That is after 2 rows of chart B. So let's kind of pull this down. So this is what it looks like right now. I'm going to turn this over, and you can see we have that's the whole top of the shawl. So up above here, we have the garter stitch edging, and then down below here, separated by these yarn overs right here, this is the body of the shawl. And if you take a look at it on the finished shawl, that's where we are right now, right here. So we've done this much right across here. So now as this grows, it's just going to continue out. Okay, so I have my Franken swatch here so I can show you some of the stitches. And so I'm going to show you some of the stitches up the top here. Okay, so most of these, I think you already know. I showed you the 9 here. So let's do these 3 over 3 stitches and 2 into 3 stitches that you're going to see right up here. Okay, so I'm just gonna work the edging here over on this. Okay, so a 3 into 3 stitch. This is 3 stitches into 3 stitches, so there is no increase or decrease. You are going to insert your needle through 3 stitches all at once. Actually, I think I have some of these. I know they're all okay. So insert your needle into 3 stitches all at once, like you're going to knit 3 together. Then you're going to knit 1, and you want to leave those 3 stitches on your needle, yarn over, and then dip back inside all 3 stitches and knit another stitch. So you have, it just comes together here. So you have 3 stitches out of 3 stitches, and it looks a little, it's kind of a mock cable look the way that I've used it, because this left stitch is always going to be on top of all of the other stitches. So it gives sort of the impression of it twisting. Okay, so I also use an increase where I do 3 stitches out of 2 stitches. So for that, I'm going to insert my needle into just 2 stitches, and that is an increase of 1 stitch. So I'm going to knit 1, yarn over, and then knit 1 again into those 3 stitches. So that is what that looks like. So that's an increase. Okay, so if you are an English knitter, same. Here's 3 stitches into 3 stitches. So you're going to have your first stitch. Not a very good English style knitter. So I'm just going to pull that. I'm going to try to pull that through. Okay. So there's my first knit stitch, and just pull that through. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my yarn forward and make a yarn over, and then back into those 3 stitches and make another knit. And that is what it looks like. And then for the 2 into 3, so knit stitch, bring the yarn forward, and another knit stitch into those same 2 stitches. And now I have a 1 stitch increase here. Okay, so I am going to kind of turn around in the middle here so I can show you a stitch that you're going to come up against. You may get there before the next live, so I just want to show you this really quickly because it's a little bit different. I just need to get back here. So I've set it up for my stitch here. Okay. So those stitches were basically what you're going to need for like the most of the first part of the shawl. And now let me grab my other charts over here. Through here, it's basically those are the stitches that you're going to use. So let's go over to this chart E, and the first row of chart E1 is the same. It has the same little circle with a P in it. Okay, so this is going to be an increase within this box here, and I want to show you how to do the circle with the P in it. So to make this look more pronounced, okay. So that little column there is going to carry on as usual. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to do this little in that middle part there. So it's a yarn over, then an SSK. Okay, so see this little bar here in between the 2 3/3 stitches. You're going to pick that up and at the same time yarn over. So just like this. So there are now 2 strands and you have a bigger looking yarn over there. And now that you've done that, you're just going to continue across. Okay, so that is what it's going to look like on your needles. You're going to have that yarn over in the middle there, also with that little strand from right below here. And that is, okay, let's get this. That is this stitch right here. It gives you a more pronounced looking yarn over across. Okay, so let's do that one more time. Can I? I don't have enough stitches. Anyway, let me back up and I'll do that one more time so you can see that again. Okay, so this is my topmost strand here. I'm about to do that little circle with the P in the middle of it. So my yarn is going to come to the front and I'm just going to pick up the bar in between those 2 stitches and yarn to the back. So I have a yarn over the top and I also have that bar picked up and then across. Okay, and let me turn around and I will show you what it looks like on the back. Okay, so it's just going to be basically purled as usual, and you're going to come to this little place right here that has the two strands, and you're just going to purl that just like if it were one strand. So that's a burp. So it's a brioche purl. So you're just purling with those two strands instead of one. And let's go to the end here and I will show you what that looks like. Okay. So you can see it has a much more pronounced um, yarn over there, kind of like a little arch. Okay, so just really quickly, in case somebody is screaming fast, because I know actually a couple of you really are screaming fast. So let's come over here and I want to show you. This is the lateral braid right here. I'm just going to really quickly show you what happens here. So also, if you want more instruction, you can see this little blurb here is how to do this to start the lateral braid. So you're going to knit one, replace it onto your left needle, and this first one is going to be just a twist. So I'm going to go behind that first stitch and knit into the second stitch. So this is why I sort of edited this a little bit to make it less fiddly, because this is a little fiddly to get it started. So there's my first stitch, and then I'm going to knit into that stitch. All right, so now that's the start of the braid. I'm going to put my that first stitch back onto my left needle. Then I'm going to yarn over and knit two together through the back loop. And that's what it's going to look like all the way across. Yarn over, knit two together through the back loop, slip my stitch back, yarn over, knit two together through the back loop, slip my stitch back. So here's what we're going to see if you're English knitter. So yarn over and knit two together through the back loop. Oops. Slip that stitch back, yarn forward, knit two together through the back loop, slip the stitch back, yarn forward, and you're creating a little a little braid here right across. And at the end, you're just going to keep that stitch up on your needle and not do anything else with it. So this is just going to be the end of the braid, just like that. And you'll just start working the rest of the chart. Alrighty. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today. And I will also go over those in greater detail in subsequent lives. But I just wanted to make sure that like everything was completely like out there. So, and then if you have any questions, let me know. I am probably not going to have a live on this particular pattern next week. I'm going to skip a week because I know people tend to work slower on these. So I'm going to skip a week and then I'll do another live and we can kind of get into more stuff. And let's see, no questions. So hopefully that's a good thing. Um, and then, yeah, so don't be a stranger. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. And then also for people who are working on this pattern, I'll be sending out some Zoom times. So talk about it. And I will also next live, I'll also go over chart F in more detail. So you can see how to do that little tiny motif in there with the slip stitches and everything. Oh, one thing I did want to point out when you look at this, you'll see that these are in different colors. So if you get to this point before I have another live, you can see these are different colors here. So this is C1 right here. And you can tell when you go over to the side here, these side stitches will always be in the color that you're using. So you're only going to be using one color at a time. So you're going to be using C2 for 4 rows, and then you're going to go to C1 for 2 rows, C2 for 2 rows, C1 for 2 rows, and then after that you can, after you've finished row 10, you can clip your C1, and the rest of this chart is finished in C2. So over here, this represents what your piece is going to look like with the colors here. So when you're working with your C1, these slip stitches that are C2 color, that is because you're going to have these two C2 color stitches on your needle from slipping them. And then you'll be knitting 3 C1s and then slipping 2 C2s. And then, of course, when you're working with your C2, you're actually slipping your C1 colors here. So the color represents what you're going to be seeing on your needle. Up here, you're going to be slipping that bead. The bead is worked, that stitch that after you slip it onto your C1 stitch, it's going to be worked with C2. So that's why that's a C2 color, but it's actually going to end up on this slipped C1 stitch. And again, that's what it's going to look like here. So here's your slipped C1 stitch. Alrighty, so I have kept you a long time, I know. I wanted to make sure that you all had enough information to get started and work as much on it as you want. So, again, thank you so much for joining me. I really actually have lots of fun doing these and see you guys in the comments. So I know lots of people can't make it, so I just appreciate even more the people who can and say hi. It's lovely to see you. So again, this was for the Mountain Frost shawl, the third pattern from the 2023 Lace Lovers Club. So you could either have had the pattern only option, which is available right now, or for people who got the full shipment. Um, so that's the two ways that you could have gotten this pattern. And yeah, so hopefully you enjoy this one. I took a lot of geeky, loving care with this. So I hope you enjoy the little geeky details in there. It was a lot of fun to do. So thank you again for joining me, and don't be a stranger. I hope to see you very soon around social media, and have a lovely evening. Bye bye, everybody.